notice the support from the Republican side, or does this have to wait until Democrats win back either chamber? And if so, with this ruling today and with the redistricting that we are already hearing GOP members saying they want to get the ball rolling on, what's the likelihood Democrats can actually win either chamber in November now?
Well, listen, we cannot give up. We're not going to give up. When we talk about revising it, we talk about revising it to meet the standards that were set by Calais, by Shelby, dealing with some of the issues that align with enforcement, dealing with the fact that we want to bring back pre-clearance. In order to do that, we need a modern day formula for determining which states are bad actors. In fact, the bill that we filed this year goes back to 1998, and it still covers about 7 or 8 states that have had, egregious behavior when it comes to voting discrimination. I guess what I'm saying is that voting discrimination is egregious, and the Voting Rights Act, while not totally eliminated by the Supreme Court case today, it was definitely gutted. But here's what I know for a fact. There's no way that the Supreme Court or that this Congress cannot let egregious state actors violate voter discrimination without having a remedy. And those remedies come from the Voting Rights Act. I think more than ever, it's now time for Congress to act. I mean, that's what the Supreme Court said in the Shelby decision, waiting on Congress to come with a modern day formula, not a formula that discriminates against discriminations that happened in the 1960s or 70s, but modern day discrimination. And we've seen that abound, whether that's requiring people to pay their bail, the cost of court costs in order to get their right to vote unsuspended. That's modern day poll tax is what it is. Or to say that the Republicans are kind of ramming down our throats. You know and I know that a passport costs $110. And I have a lot of members of my constituency that can't afford that. So there are definitely modern day suppression tactics that the Republicans and extremists have made alive and well. And we seek to address those in the Voting Rights Act, the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And so we know that we can't just submit the same thing. We must revise it in order to reflect the court cases that have tried to gut it.
On the midterm aspect of that question, let me be very clear about one thing. We are not going to let the extremists successfully rig to artificially hold power as a result of a racial gerrymander, a partisan gerrymander, or a DeSantis dummy-mander. Doesn't matter what it is. We're not going to let them prevail. And we're not just talking about that. We faced this same very question about a year ago when Donald Trump and Republicans launched this scheme to gerrymander congressional maps all across the country and snatch away, according to what people objectively said, it's going to be 10, 12, or 15 seats with folks claiming that Democrats could do nothing about it. But we stand here today having fought back all over the place, in Texas, in California, in Utah, in Ohio, in New Hampshire, in Nebraska, in Missouri, in Indiana, and most recently in Virginia. And Democrats haven't launched the gerrymandering battle. We're winning it. And everybody understands that. Regardless of what they do in Florida, well, we'll continue to push back. So don't let any MAGA extremists fool you about what may ultimately result from this decision, particularly as it relates to the next few months. Because we're going to fight back in the Deep South and all over the country. And when it's all said and done, we're going to win.
There's no evidence that we are safer because of this war. We did not have any evidence that Iran intended to imminently attack this country in any way, shape, or form. So I disagree with your assessment that we are under threat.
Do you not believe them when they say death to America?
Listen, our adversaries use rhetoric all the time.
Democrats brought yet another war powers resolution to the Senate floor today. It failed. That's strike 6. The president is not pleased with these shenanigans.
They go again and again. The war powers are negotiating a deal with the and every week, every 3 days, they put in a thing that the war should stop. And people ask me, how the hell do you negotiate like that? You're destroying them. Every day I read, think of it, we've militarily decapitated the country. And every day I read about how well they're doing militarily. They got nothing left. They're done.
Here to discuss, Lexington Institute Vice President Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, thanks for being with us today. Let me ask you about the war powers thing, okay? Because we're at that day 60. You know, you look back in history, it seems like something that hasn't gotten in the way when we've been using force, but it's also enshrined in law. What difference does it make that we've gotten to day 60 here?
Well, I think two things. Operation Epic Fury has achieved a lot, including a shift from airstrikes to blockade, and it can go back to airstrikes if it needs to. With the war powers, I'm sorry to say this is political gamesmanship. Senator Schumer says he's going to keep bringing this forward. And to me, I'm horrified to see it because we've got 50,000 American service members out there carrying out the nation's work. This is a moment for Congress to be bipartisan. They can do all the analysis they want when this is over. They ought to drop the war powers. But from what I heard over the last 2 days on the Hill, the Democrats want to make Iran a big talking point in the midterms.
From an outsider's perspective, it seems like we're sort of at an impasse or a standstill or not